What if the man you married was never the man you truly knew? What if the love story the world celebrated was carefully staged from the very beginning? Tonight on your favorite channel, we're uncovering a story that TLC cameras only hinted at but never fully showed. A story where devotion may have been manipulation, where faith became pressure, and where love slowly suffocated under secrets. Adnan Abdulada and Tigerlily Taylor were introduced as another bold cross-cultural couple in the 90-Day Fiancé world. Their relationship looked passionate and dramatic. Viewers saw chemistry, emotion, and cultural differences that made their story intense and exciting. Adnan appeared confident and charming. Tigerlily looked deeply committed, willing to sacrifice comfort, familiarity, and even parts of her identity for love. On the surface, it seemed like a modern fairy tale, two people from different worlds trying to build one life together. But behind the edited scenes, the foundation was unstable. From the beginning, friends and relatives quietly expressed concern. They questioned Adnan's temper, his need for control, and his desire to be obeyed rather than understood. Tigerlily ignored those warnings. She believed love required patience and compromise. She believed time would solve everything. Behind closed doors, small disagreements turned into intense arguments. Adnan demanded loyalty, but shared very little about his own life. He wanted trust without accountability. Tigerlily began distancing herself from anyone who questioned the marriage. She convinced herself that defending her husband meant protecting the relationship. What she didn't realize was that Adnan was already living two lives. Publicly, he acted like a devoted husband. Privately, he was reportedly seeing other women. People close to him claimed he went to expensive restaurants with different girlfriends, behaving as if he had no commitments. Each sighting weakened the illusion, but Tigerlily didn't know the full truth yet. The couple that looked passionate on television was already struggling off-screen. Trust was fading. Arguments increased. But whenever Tigerlily confronted him, Adnan denied everything. He blamed jealousy. He said questioning him was disrespectful. The power balance slowly shifted. What began as romance became emotional dependence. Tigerlily tried harder to prove her loyalty. Adnan kept changing expectations. And this was only the beginning. The first cracks in their marriage were not caused by cheating. They were caused by control. At first, it seemed small. Comments about her clothing, questions about who she spoke to, suggestions about how she should behave in public. He called it guidance. Over time, those suggestions became rules. Tigerlily tried to adapt. She told herself cultural differences required flexibility. She believed strong personalities sometimes clash before harmony is found. She thought things would improve once they were fully settled into married life. But the tension grew. Arguments were rarely about major issues. They were about obedience. Adnan wanted his decisions accepted without discussion. Tigerlily wanted conversation and partnership. Every disagreement ended the same way, Adnan asserting authority, Tigerlily feeling emotionally drained. Family involvement made things worse. Reports suggested that Adnan's relatives reinforced the belief that a wife's role was to submit, not to question. Tigerlily found herself defending her independence while being labeled disrespectful, simply for expressing an opinion. When cameras were present, only fragments of this tension appeared. Smiles replaced frustration. Conflicts were softened through editing. What viewers saw as drama was actually daily emotional pressure. Gradually, Tigerlily changed. She became quieter. She measured her words. She feared that one wrong sentence would trigger another fight. The woman who once spoke freely began calculating every response just to maintain peace. Meanwhile, Adnan grew more distant. He spent more time away from home. There were private phone calls, hidden messages. When confronted, he accused her of insecurity and drama. Slowly, every issue in the marriage became her fault. Trust eroded. Love became conditional. Respect faded. Tigerlily sensed something was wrong, but she still believed honesty and time could fix it. She hoped counseling or patience would restore what was broken. What she didn't know was that Adnan was already living a life separate from her efforts. The truth, no matter how carefully hidden, always surfaces. For months, Adnan presented himself as a loyal husband both publicly and on television. He acted like a man navigating cultural differences with commitment. But off-screen, a different reality was unfolding. Several private sources claimed that Adnan was secretly dating multiple women at the same time. These were not just online rumors. There were witnesses and repeated patterns. People reported seeing him at high-end restaurants, bars, and private gatherings with women who were not his wife. His behavior did not seem cautious. It seemed bold, almost careless, as if he believed he would never be exposed. While Tigerlily stayed home trying to repair her marriage, Adnan reportedly lived freely, without responsibility. At first, Tigerlily noticed small changes. More late nights, phone calls taken in private, passwords changed. When she asked questions, she did not receive reassurance. She received anger. He told her she was paranoid, jealous, distrustful. These are common deflection tactics. They shift blame and create doubt. Over time, she began questioning her own instincts. Friends who tried to warn her were dismissed. Adnan suggested they did not understand their culture or their relationship. Isolated and emotionally exhausted, Tigerlily started doubting her own judgment instead of his behavior. But evidence kept appearing. Photos surfaced quietly. Stories aligned too precisely to ignore. Patterns repeated. Adnan was not simply unfaithful. He was maintaining a lifestyle that required constant lying, emotional manipulation, and disregard for his vows. The betrayal was made worse by hypocrisy. He demanded loyalty from Tigerlily. He insisted on obedience and respect. He expected her to limit her world for the sake of the marriage. But he did not hold himself to the same standard. And that imbalance would ultimately become impossible to ignore, that he wanted everyone else to sacrifice something. But when no one was watching, he gave nothing in return. He expected Tigerlily to change her life to fit his standards, while he quietly broke the same rules he claimed to believe in. This double life was not only about cheating. It revealed something deeper: control and entitlement. Adnan behaved as if rules applied to everyone except him, and that belief slowly began to destroy everything he tried to control. By the time Tigerlily started connecting the dots, the damage was already done. The marriage was not just struggling, it was built on lies, and the next chapter would make that humiliation public. Adnan could not hide his behavior forever. Eventually, it happened on camera. Reality television depends on drama, but what took place during filming went beyond drama. It was no longer tension that editing could soften. As filming resumed, the distance between Adnan and Tigerlily was obvious. Conversations felt cold. Eye contact disappeared. The warmth that once defined their on-screen connection was gone. Then came a moment no one expected. During what was supposed to be a routine scene, Adnan openly embarrassed his wife in front of producers, crew members, and other cast members. A small disagreement quickly escalated. He mocked her beliefs. He criticized her behavior. He spoke to her in a tone that shocked people on set. Tigerlily stood still. This was not a private argument. It was public humiliation under bright lights, with microphones recording every word. Adnan did not lower his voice. He did not pause. He acted as though the set was simply another space where he held authority. Later, crew members described the atmosphere as deeply uncomfortable. Some expected production to step in. Some thought filming would stop. But the cameras continued rolling. For Tigerlily, the shame hurt more than the betrayal. In that moment, she realized Adnan no longer cared how things looked. Not her dignity, not the marriage, not even his own public image. The man who demanded respect showed no hesitation in stripping hers away in front of strangers. After that incident, Tigerlily reportedly became quiet. She did not argue. She did not explode. She emotionally withdrew. People close to her said she looked defeated, as if she finally understood the reality of her situation. Adnan, however, did not express regret. According to sources, he described the confrontation as necessary correction. He believed authority mattered more than empathy. Control mattered more than partnership. The set that once showcased romance had become a place of emotional harm. What viewers eventually saw on television was only a softened version. The psychological toll was far heavier than what aired. That day marked a turning point. Tigerlily no longer believed the marriage could be repaired. The humiliation was public. The emotional abuse was visible. And the pressure was about to become even more invasive. What happened on set was only a glimpse of what she faced at home. Behind closed doors, Adnan's behavior intensified. The public embarrassment was followed by private pressure. This time, the focus shifted from her actions to her identity. Adnan began insisting that Tigerlily convert to Islam. At first, the conversation sounded calm. He spoke about unity, shared values, and tradition. He framed conversion as a natural step in marriage. He did not present it as a demand. He presented it as growth. But when Tigerlily hesitated, the tone changed. Discussions turned into arguments. Questions were labeled disrespectful. Hesitation was treated as rebellion. Adnan made it clear that peace and approval in the marriage depended on her agreement. Tigerlily felt trapped. For her, faith had always been personal. It was not something to adopt under pressure. But Adnan crossed the line by tying religious conversion to emotional security. He told her the marriage would never feel complete unless she changed. He suggested she could never truly be his wife otherwise. The pressure was not always loud. Sometimes it was silence, emotional withdrawal, cold distance. Every conflict circled back to the same issue, her refusal to fully surrender. Over time, Tigerlily began questioning her own worth. She felt as though her value depended on how much of herself she was willing to erase. People close to her later described her as anxious and exhausted. She struggled to sleep. She doubted her own instincts. The woman who once believed love could overcome anything now felt trapped by expectations she had never agreed to. Adnan justified everything. He claimed he was guiding her. He called it leadership. He argued that resistance showed lack of commitment. But this was no longer about faith. It was about power. He was not asking her to share beliefs. He was demanding compliance. And every refusal increased his anger. What Tigerlily did not realize was that this pressure served another purpose. It was a distraction. Behind the scenes, Adnan was hiding something far more serious. Something that would ultimately break the marriage beyond repair. For a long time, Adnan's struggles appeared emotional. Anger, ego, control. But underneath, a financial crisis was quietly growing. It began with small gaps in the budget. Money disappeared without explanation. Credit cards reached limits faster than expected. Bank statements raised questions. When Tigerlily asked about it, Adnan blamed business expenses or temporary cash flow issues. But those explanations were not true. According to anonymous sources, Adnan had become deeply involved in online gambling. What started as occasional betting turned into obsession. Late-night business calls were actually wagers. Winning boosted his confidence. Losing fueled desperation. Online gambling creates the illusion of control. One more bet feels like the solution. Adnan believed he could recover losses and walk away. Instead, the losses grew. Thousands became tens of thousands. Eventually, the total approached $250,000 in gambling debt. The worst part was that Tigerlily had no idea. She believed their finances were stable. She continued managing the household while collection notices arrived and creditors circled. Adnan's growing anger was not confidence, it was fear. As pressure mounted, his behavior changed again. Arguments became sharper. His need for dominance intensified. Every conversation carried tension. Tigerlily thought he was simply angry. In reality, he was terrified. Terrified of exposure. Terrified of collapse. Instead of telling the truth, he chose to lie. He borrowed money quietly. He shifted accounts. He made promises he could not keep. Each lie bought time, but tightened the crisis. Gambling addiction destroys more than finances. It erodes honesty, empathy, and accountability. Adnan entered survival mode. Protecting himself became more important than protecting his marriage. And then everything shifted. The same man who once insisted on authority suddenly needed something desperately. He needed money, and he believed Tigerlily would save him. For months, Adnan had presented himself as the leader, the provider, the authority in the marriage. But now the power dynamic was shifting in a way he never expected. The man who once demanded obedience was quietly drowning. When the gambling debt reached a breaking point, The pressure became impossible to manage alone. Creditors were no longer patient. Deadlines were no longer flexible. The illusion of control was collapsing. That is when Adnan turned to Tigerlily. But he did not begin with honesty. He did not sit her down and admit he had made reckless decisions. He did not confess the full amount. Instead, he introduced the problem slowly, carefully, shaping the story in a way that minimized his responsibility. He described it as a temporary financial setback, a business risk that did not go as planned, a short-term problem that could be solved quickly with support. He framed it as a test of loyalty. If she truly loved him, she would stand by him. If she believed in their marriage, she would help. If she wanted unity, this was the moment to prove it. Tigerlily was shocked, but not yet fully aware of the truth. The number he first mentioned was smaller, manageable. It sounded serious, but not catastrophic. What she didn't know was that the real figure was far higher. As she asked more questions, the story began to unravel. The explanations became inconsistent. Dates didn't match. Accounts didn't add up. And slowly, the reality surfaced. This was not a minor setback. This was $250,000, $250,000 lost to online gambling. The revelation hit her like a second betrayal layered on top of the first. The cheating, the control, the public humiliation. And now this. Financial deception carries a unique kind of shock. It destroys not only trust, but security. The ground beneath you feels unstable. Every memory becomes questionable. How long had this been happening? How many lies had been told to protect it? How much of their conflict had actually been fueled by secret debt? Suddenly, his anger made sense. His volatility, his obsession with control. It was not strength. It was panic. Adnan, however, continued to shift blame. He argued that stress had driven him to gamble. That pressure from the marriage had contributed. That cultural tension and public scrutiny had weighed on him. Even in confession, he avoided full accountability. And then came the unspoken expectation. He wanted her to help pay it. Not directly at first. It was framed as partnership, as teamwork, as sacrifice for the future. He reminded her of vows, of standing together in hardship, of loyalty. But there was something deeply ironic in his request. For years, he had demanded submission. He had positioned himself as superior. He had insisted that he was the authority in the household. Now he needed rescue. Tigerlily faced a choice she never imagined. If she refused, she would be labeled unsupportive, disloyal, uncommitted. If she agreed, she would be financially entangled in a disaster she did not create. The emotional manipulation intensified. Adnan grew softer in tone but sharper in implication. He spoke about how much he trusted her, how she was the only person he could rely on, how her support would prove their bond was unbreakable. This was not vulnerability. It was strategy, because true vulnerability admits fault without expectation. What Adnan offered was conditional remorse. Behind the scenes, tension reached its peak. Arguments became explosive. Tears replaced silence. Tigerlily began to fully grasp the scale of what she was facing. This was no longer about saving a marriage. It was about survival. Friends who had once been pushed away slowly re-entered her life. Some had suspected financial instability long before the confession. Others were shocked by the amount. They asked difficult questions. If he hid gambling, what else had he hidden? If he lied about money, could he be trusted with anything? Tigerlily started revisiting every moment in their relationship. The secrecy, the late nights, the defensive reactions, the control tactics. The pattern was undeniable. Control had never been about tradition alone. It had been about distraction. When someone keeps you focused on proving loyalty, you are less likely to question inconsistencies. While she defended her devotion, he concealed his addiction. The emotional toll became visible. Sleep became rare. Anxiety constant. Decisions felt heavy. She realized something painful, but liberating. Love does not require you to finance someone else's self-destruction. Partnership does not mean absorbing consequences you did not create. And loyalty does not demand silence in the face of deception. When she finally refused to take responsibility for the debt, the reaction was immediate. Adnan's calm mask disappeared. The anger returned. He accused her of abandoning him, of failing him, of caring more about money than marriage. But the truth was simpler. She was choosing herself. The man who once insisted on dominance was now exposed, not as a leader, but as someone who had gambled away stability, trust, and respect. The fallout extended beyond their home. Production began reassessing the situation. Financial instability, public humiliation, emotional pressure. These were no longer isolated incidents. They formed a pattern. The image once presented on television, a bold, cross-cultural love story, no longer matched reality. Tigerlily eventually understood something critical. The marriage had